Hi everyone, I'm Maggie McGrath, editor of Forbes Women. For the last 3 decades, our next guest has been a transformative force in education and fashion, at the intersection of both, in fact, as the president of the Fashion Institute of Technology here in New York City. She was the first Black woman appointed to the role when she took her position in 1998. Dr. Brown, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's my pleasure.
So, let's go back to the very beginning, when you broke ground being named president of this institution. You are a PhD in psychology, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you imagine taking over an educational institution dedicated to fashion, having gotten your PhD in psychology?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I've spent my entire career really in public higher education. So for many years, I worked for the City University of New York. FIT is part of State University, so similar animals, but very different institutions. And so I was working in a college while I pursued my PhD. I was putting myself through graduate school, essentially. I always say I'm the mailroom story of a college because I did every job. And so it was through that process that I realized that I thought I could do a better job than what I was seeing. That we had to always keep in mind that the institutions really are there to further the opportunity and the progress of students. And the bureaucracy can oftentimes overtake that. And so I was very motivated to move through the ranks and get to run an institution in the way I thought it should be run. So no, I don't, getting the PhD in psychology, which helps immensely, believe me.
How? I was going to ask, because obviously fashion is creative, and I know you work on the business side with students. I've heard you say that students don't all become fashion designers, some become executives, but pulling back, creativity often involves mental awareness, good psychology, but how has your degree in psychology helped what you do at FIT?
Well, in a number of ways. First of all, I think the training teaches you how to listen. I always say I have like a third ear. I'm listening for cues. I'm listening because I really want to understand what it is you're trying to convey, what it is you think you need or want, or that I should be aware of from my position if I'm going to really try and have a joint kind of productive relationship within an institution. So there's that, but then it's also, I'm in a community of very creative people, so there's, shall we say, drama from time to time, and I can always threaten to bring in my couch. We can either solve this through conversation or we can bring in the couch and we can really understand what's underneath all of this drama we're experiencing. So I think it helps in a lot of different ways.
That's so interesting. As you look back over your tenure thus far, the world has changed obviously so much since 1998. What has been the biggest challenge as you look at education or as you look at fashion in guiding your students?
Oh, there's just so many things, and of course we all seem to identify our world pre and post COVID. So certainly many things changed from 1998, the impact of technology specifically, but then comes COVID and everything, absolutely everything in your life changed. The way you get information, the way you're entertained, the way you interact, the way you dress, whether you travel, how you work. So all of those things naturally are going to impact running a big institution that needs to serve people at varying levels of development and interest. But I think, to go back to, aside from our adjustments as a result of COVID, I think the whole impact of technology was really very critical over these last 2 decades, because it impacts how designing is done, how, the whole notion of sustainability in the fashion world and waste and how you control the use of resources, whether that's fabrics and textiles or water and dyes. And all of that was really just at the beginning of bursting and taking over the focus and the interest of the students. And this generation it's very important. It is very important for this generation to feel that they are doing something to protect the planet, because we really haven't taken very good care of the planet, and we're handing it over with great pride and ceremony. But the fact of the matter is, we need there needs to be activities and processes put in place that protect the resources that are left.
As we look at the designers who come across our radar for the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, we often see sustainability. And maybe not just designers, e-commerce too. It is a word, it is a mission that comes up over and over and over again. Yeah. And technology too. I'm sure AI is a deep consideration for your students these days.
Well, yeah, AI, and 3D and all the various ways that you can experiment and create new and different ways of achieving your goals from a creative muse sort of aspect, where you don't have to waste resources to find and see how your design would look in a new and different way. I think that aside from AI, excuse me, just the whole way in which you can, in fact, have a three-dimensional object, you can change the background, you can change the fabric without ever using any of the material resources that should entail. And the other thing is with AI, everybody is talking about AI, and I think there's a lot of fear about AI. It's going to take over jobs. It's going to, how are we ever going to know what's authentic and who created what? But, if you think back, well, maybe I've been around long enough to be able to think back and remember that same kind of fear when the internet was, at its fledgling, introduction to absolutely every aspect of our lives. And people were afraid it was going to take over jobs, that we were not going to have, the authentic, individualized, creative aspects of what individuals could create. And we've had the opportunity to do a number of programming with kids. Just as an example, we had some students that went to Italy last summer. We were able to put together the funds so that they could participate in a program right outside of Venice in a place called H-Farm. H-Farm is very interesting. They do a lot of technology. They started the whole Google Glass thing there. At any rate, they were studying with Italian students, and they were all figuring out the ways in which AI allowed them to be expansive in their design. And so it takes away some of the fear. They apply it, they see what they can create as a result. And it's been, it's really been an advancement for what they're able to learn and do and experiment and see their way clear to forge new paths in design.
It's cutting edge. I think
Totally.
Sometimes I hear fashion and I picture just a sewing needle and a sketchbook.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that. What are the other misconceptions that you see about FIT students or about the work that FIT does?
Well, in 1998, when I arrived, FIT's reputation, or what it seemed to be known most for, was certainly fashion design, but also as a feeder for the garment industry. That our students were going to come out and they were going to start at the bottom and they were going to run sewing machines and be on a line, I guess, and, maybe do handwork. But it really wasn't about a lifestyle, a lifestyle of majors and programs that we really do offer for our students. At this point, at that point, they were sort of, a no, never mind part of it, an idea of things we might be able to do. I think that, what we're able to do at this point is really understand the full impact. So we have almost 50 majors.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have a school of business, we have a school of art and design, we have a school of liberal arts, we have a graduate school. And what really struck me was this gold mine of talent that people weren't aware of. that, we do from start to finish. You can have the idea of the concept of the design, you can create the product, you can do the merchandising, you can do the advertising, you can do the marketing. I mean, we have international trade, we have cosmetics and fragrance, we have toy design, we have programs that no one else has. And it is a rich reservoir of talent and subject matter experts at FIT. And what I wanted to do was create an environment where all those individuals could share their talents and work together, and at the same time reach out and be in partnership with industry so that we were helping in their real world, state of the art, instant kind of issues and challenges that they deal with on a daily basis. What we have are creative solutions. We have young minds with, an incredible prism that they pass their thinking process through and come up with incredible designs and solutions.
That diversity of subject matter is really important because I've seen this in interviewing founders. I talked to the founder of a cupcake company just yesterday, and she described herself as a creative first, and she was very reticent to be the CEO of her own company because she thought of herself as creative. But she has the leadership skills and the financial know-how and the marketing know-how to be a CEO. It sounds like the programs that you offer to your students allow folks who think of themselves as creatives to maybe find out how they could be executives or technologists.
Well, everybody who comes to FIT thinks they know what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. So we admit them into a program with a major, with a direction, with a goal, and oftentimes they learn that maybe that's not the way their talent is going to be best applied, but what we can do is show them the various levels at which you can apply those talents in different ways. Everybody's name is not going to be on the door, but everybody can in fact find the niche, where they will make their contribution to the end, this muse that invades their being and needs to find its way out. So, the opportunities for pulling together, creating interdisciplinary opportunities for these young people to really be able to make their mark and understand how they can fulfill their dream, really.
How responsive do you have to be to the news cycle? And I ask because everything going on with tariffs right now, it affects supply chains, it affects the way designers and founders are looking at their own business. Do you add like an emergency, like 6 weeks on how to manage your supply costs, or is that something that they'll deal with in internships and real world experience?
They'll deal with it in internships, they'll deal with it in classes. I mean, obviously the faculty, most of our faculty are individuals who have come from at some point through the ranks of industry, and they will introduce what the impact is. Many of our alums come back and talk to the students. They are running companies. They have to make the adjustments. I often say that what we're doing is we are training the next generation of leaders for these industries. Mm-hmm. So as creative as you may be, if you don't understand what the people you're paying have to deal with, you're really not going to be able to make the best decisions and move your business along and be successful. So, all of these issues, the product development, the sustainability issues, the impact on the economic marketplace, the ways in which you have to deal in different cultural settings, all of those things become part of what we now talk about and introduce for them because it's very important and because we are in fact creating lifestyle in industry executives that will go out and run the design world.
Now, recognizing that all students are important to you and also that not every name will go on the door, as you said, but you do mention some alum come back to teach the students. Who are the FIT alumni who the Forbes audience might be surprised to learn got their start at FIT?
Well, I hope they're not surprised to know because almost all of them got their start at FIT. We just had a big gala and we had as our co-MCs Michael Kors and Nina Garcia. And they're great supporters. We have Calvin Klein is a name, people will know. Francisco Costa, who, was with Calvin Klein and then went on to his own name. I mean, I have to be careful because I don't want to leave out anyone. It's a myriad of names. B. Michael is a designer that, does couture, beautiful, and as well as lifestyle, made in America kinds of things. Dennis Basso. We really, we cut across, beauty executives that are, in running the big companies or a part of the Estee Lauder family, or, just so many levels of so many things. We do product development. Now, product development, people will wonder, or product management, where, does have to do with the supply chain and the inventory control. Those are not things that sound really exciting, but they're big names of people who got their start really understanding how to run all of those things through FIT. The other thing that we've done is start what is called our DTech Lab, which is a design and tech lab. And how we utilize that, and the reason I wanted to do that really was because just as we were witnessing these various changes that were happening to industry was having to sort of understand how to solve new and different kinds of things that were coming across their desk, coming over the transom, needing to be faced. And there's nothing quite like the mindset of a creative 20-year-old, So we set up the DTech Lab for companies to be able to come and say, this is our challenge. What do you see as a pathway to a solution?
That's cool.
And it's just been amazing in terms of the kind of solutions, creative solutions, and the merging of the design thought process with the emerging technologies, with the industry issues that need to be solved.
So it's like a mini incubator.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's a mini incubator, and it just gets better and better in terms of the kinds of issues that people will come to seek. We have people that come with characters for Netflix that they're doing, production, and they want to know how the character should be developed or how the wardrobe should look to be realistic and current. We've had Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts came and they wanted a redesign of the uniforms because, as wonderful as Girl Scouts are, girls today didn't want to look like little brownies, right? They wanted all the various kind of cool ways the uniform could look. And so that was redesigned by our students in partnership with them. A number of years ago, Tommy Hilfiger came, and we worked with Tommy Hilfiger and IBM on using their Watson technology, which I really think was a precursor to AI.
Mm-hmm.
And what essentially the task was to take what was the core DNA of the successful Tommy Hilfiger product and figure out what those core elements are and then make it current and cool for young people today. And that's what our folks did. What they did was they took all those iconic core variables, they fed it through the Watson technology of IBM, and when they got a look at what the main variables and characteristics were, then they made it really cool. So they put sensors in that could change with your mood. So if you were happy, it was blue. If you were angry, it was red. And they had panels where you could have stripes, or you could have plaits, or you could have solids. So you had many outfits and many approaches, and you could be, cool. So anyway, those are the kinds of products and projects that people come to us with. Some of them really unexpected, where we had a pharmaceutical company come and wanting to know how to market solutions for what was essentially a very rare and difficult to diagnose illness that people would come through.
Fascinating.
The expanse is amazing.
I was about to say, the expanse makes me think that FIT is kind of the quiet force, not just behind couture and fashion, high fashion, but really a lot of what consumers might be seeing across consumer retail.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is that because of your leadership, or was that always FIT's legacy?
Well, I would say it was my vision that when I saw the resources that FIT really had, it was like this little jewel in Lower Manhattan that people didn't have enough of an understanding and view of what was possible. So it was really about changing the culture of a place. You know, people often ask me what I am most proud of for my time at FIT. I mean, amongst those things are the fact that we really changed the conversation. We changed what people's expressed aspirations could be, what the goals were, what we thought we could achieve, what we thought our impact would be. And then we went about making it possible. I mean, you have to gain trust in a community that you're going to be supportive of the things that you're asking them to think about, and asking them to recognize can be part of the legacy, the statement, what becomes the MO of the place, the DNA, what we're really producing, what our impact is on the larger community.
When you talk about impact and also vision, you, I think, are the force behind the Social Justice Center at FIT. Can you talk about that and why that was so important?
Well, for many years there's been a lot of conversation about how the industry writ large, the retail industry, the creative industry, was not diversified in its point of view, that there was an understanding, a statement about what was couture, what was beauty, and that there were many people in society, many segments of our society, that were not represented by those iconic views of what was beautiful and what we ought to be striving for. And there was always a lot of talk, and there was always, these programmatic efforts that didn't really go anywhere to diversify the point of view, and then we had, that the reckoning in, 2020 was quite the year. I mean, we had COVID, we had the death of George Floyd, we had the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and a number of things these days in the political and social arena are denigrated as being, handouts for people. This was not what we were talking about. We were talking about identifying real talent that not only deserved to be given an opportunity to develop and make a contribution to the design world and the business world, but to really, for the betterment of the bottom line of the companies, to understand how you might expand your product line, expand the textiles, expand the colors, expand the size, dimensions of who you were really reaching out to serve. You were not just needing to speak to, if you wanted to be successful and really serve all of your constituents, you needed to go beyond, the size 2, $4,000 outfit, but really understand what would speak to many different individuals within the society. So here was a moment when, there was all this heightened awareness. There was a lot of talk about the lack of diversity and the disenfranchisement of so many elements. So we thought it was an opportunity and a time, I thought, to really develop, an opportunity to take very talented individuals and provide the access and the opportunity for them to fulfill their talent and create a pathway and a pipeline. We wanted to work with the companies so that the companies would have these young people as interns, apprentices, full-time employees ultimately. So we would build the pipeline and create a pathway between FIT and the industry. So that's how the Social Justice Center started. We've got some incredible young people coming through who will be poised to make their contribution, not because people gave them something, but because we created an opportunity for them to succeed.
Show. So what is next for you, and how do you look at the next year?
Well, you know, I could do this forever. I mean, I have lots of ideas, and I think, you know, we've really created an environment where people are really excited and motivated to do more and better things. One of the things I always said was that I wouldn't leave before we built a building. We have now built a new building. I don't suggest most people decide to build a building in the middle of New York City. It took, you know, a good 15 to 17 years to get it done.
28th Street?
On
28th Street?
On 28th, yes, it's gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's going to make such a difference in the environment for teaching and learning. At any rate, I said it's probably time to step down. Everybody can benefit from new ideas and new energy coming into a place. I am, you know, talking to people about what might be next. I think I have a lot of energy and a lot of skills at putting together working in complex organizations and getting people to work together. So I'm anxious to put that to good use in the next little while.
Well, we'll have to have you back so you can report on what you are doing then. But for now, yeah. Dr. Joyce Brown, thank you so much for sitting down with Forbes.
Thank you so much. It was a lovely time. Thank you.